Welcome back to another episode of Beyond 2D. I think this is episode 5 now, and I hope everybody's doing good. I hope everyone's enjoying the series so far. I'm recording a lot of these in advance because some big things are happening in my life, so I'm recording them all in advance, and so I don't really know how you're taking all of them, but I really hope you're liking them. There's a few things I want to talk about in this episode. First, Mushoku Tensei. Okay, I've been seeing a lot of videos on TikTok about Mushoku Tensei, and I want to give my 2 cents or 10-minute cents. And then I also want to talk about how fucking bad TikTok is and how much it fucking sucks to be a creator on it, especially in Canada. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast or the show, the series, the videos. I don't know what to call it. Calling it a podcast is super pretentious to me. So yeah, anyways, just grab a cup of coffee. I have a cup of coffee here, like always, and sit back and enjoy it. You can put this on in the background. You can look at the pretty cherry blossoms falling. Do whatever you want. But anyways, okay, let's get into it. Mushoku Tensei. If you know me at all, if you've seen any of my videos, you know I fucking love Mushoku Tensei. I love that show. It's such a good show. It's like a 9.9 out of 10, almost a 10 out of 10 show. But, it's run into a lot of controversy. Because if you've seen the show, you'll see that there's some weird, messed up things that happen. And people on social media love to pick on the easiest thing to pick on, or love to jump on the side that's the easiest to defend, being like, you should cancel Mushoku Tensei, you should cancel the author, the main character, whatever, because there's things like assault and the R word and he marries his second cousin and he buys a slave in the recent episodes. So people are really eager to jump on the bandwagon of the show sucks. It's a weird show, it's a bad show, cancel everything. But I just disagree completely. If anything, this is going to sound terrible, but all those things make it a better show. Now hear me out, okay? I'm not supporting any of those things. All those things, in and of themselves, are awful things. Obviously, I don't want them to happen in the real world, and I don't want them to happen in an anime. They're terrible things. Incest, assault, R-word, and fucking slavery, those are all bad things. But that's just what the world is, okay? Now, hear me out. The reason why I'm getting so, frustrated or whatever, the reason why I got so passionate about this is because I saw one TikTok video of some guy who's a really big creator. He has almost 1 million followers on TikTok. He was basically being like, the recent episode of Mushoku Tensei had a slave and it's awful and it's normalizing slavery, and even the author, all he said was it's happening in the world, and Rudius sees it as not good nor bad, he just sees it as it is. And the creator was basically being like, oh, that's a terrible stance to have, it's awful, it's a bad thing, it's normalizing and everything. And then he made a second video responding to a comment, basically being like, oh, it doesn't matter that it's happening in a medieval world, it's still bad and it shouldn't be happening, and the author shouldn't be doing it. Is the author weird? Are you guys weird for liking him? And just a lot of things like that. And so, okay, let's break this down. Okay, so it's easier for me to I can't say this word. Compartmentalize. Fuck. Anyways, for me to divide it, okay? It's easier for me to divide it. Okay, first, the author needs to add all these, well, not needs to, but it helps for the author to add all these things. It helps with world building and world development. The more developed and the more built a world is, the easier it is, or the more enveloped you can get into the world, and the more interesting it is, and the more complex it is, and the greater ability it allows for storytelling and different plot points to happen and everything, and it just makes sense, okay? Think about the world of Mushoku Tensei. It's like a medieval-esque time period with a lot of classism, a lot of racism, a lot of disparity of wealth. There's super rich and there's also super, super poor. There's a lot of areas that are uninhabitable because of monsters and shit, and the addition of magic with more not racism, but people who can use magic against people who can't use magic. That adds a lot of violence and can add a lot of discrimination based off of that. Also, it's a monarchy with super high nobles and nobility that are always looking down onto the super poor, and that is a perfect breeding ground for things like slavery and things like child labor and child whatever, marrying off children very young because you want them to be set up for a good future with nobility and everything like that. It would make sense to have these things in the story because of the setting that it's in. If they were in a medieval setting and everything was perfect and there was no violence, there was no disparity of wealth, then that wouldn't be a good medieval setting because it's going to like the history, okay? Historically, in medieval times, all these things existed. Slavery existed because there were super rich, super powerful people who wanted other people to do everything. And so they had slaves. They had house workers that are basically slaves, and they had people working on the farms that were basically slaves. Like, this isn't only, okay, bad topic, like, this isn't, like, just going back to, like, slavery of, like, the 1850s, where African Americans were put as slaves. Like, that's not what this show is almost referencing, if you want to put it that way. Like, I don't want to, like, again, I hate that I need to point this out. Everything is bad. Slavery is bad. Surprise, surprise. Child labor is bad. Disparity of wealth, racism, discrimination, that's all bad. But again, it adds to the world. It makes the world more interesting. It makes it more developed, and it adds more plot points that the author can connect and derive from. Like having Rudius buy a slave. There's so many anime that have people buy slaves. There's so many TV shows that have people buy slaves. And it just, again, it adds to the world building because it was in a medieval time period. All these things existed. So for it to be a developed and realistic portrayal of the time period, they need to add it, the author needs to add it into the show. And people are saying, oh, it's normalizing it. How is it normalizing it? Having it in a realistic setting does not normalize it. It's a fucking cartoon. There's so many, okay, people are going to say it's what-ifism, but it's like, how is Mushoku Tensei normalizing it, but every other show that has all these things isn't? And I'm totally against that too. Having something in a TV show isn't normalizing something, it's just calling attention to it. It's saying that it exists or it existed, and that's just a fact of life. And this is a cartoon, so it's even less. But things like, okay, look at every vampire show ever. A 500-year-old vampire is dating a high school girl. That's pretty weird. Look at Game of Thrones, one of the most popular shows ever. In the first episode, there's 2 instances of incest. And there's also the R word, there's also slavery, I think, and there's war, there's battles, murder, manipulation. Those are all bad things, but it's not normalizing those things. Breaking Bad, he makes meth. That's not normalizing meth, saying, oh yeah, you guys should make meth because Walter White makes meth. No, it's just saying it exists, okay? Look at my favorite anime ever, Naruto. On the surface, Naruto's a pretty kid-friendly thing. It's about a kid becoming stronger and fighting for the world. There's war, there's mass murder, there's genocide, there's discrimination, there's child labor and child soldiers. There is awful messages in Naruto that you can easily take away. You can pick any anime and there's awful things. But adding these things develop the world, okay? How do you make a character look bad? You make him murder a bunch of people. Murder's bad, but it's not normalizing murder just because a character has murdered somebody. Every piece of media has messed up things, okay? Look at the movie. Do you guys remember the movie Django Unchained? It was a movie about slavery and about a slave, like, getting freed and stuff like that. It came out back in the day. I think it was, like, maybe, like, 2012, 2013. It was, like, a 3-hour-long movie. It was really critically acclaimed. It was a good movie, but it was about slavery. Does that mean it's normalizing slavery because they made a movie educating people about that time? No, it's not. And you can say it's different because it's educating people, and compared to Mushoku Tensei, it's not really educating people, but it's still a piece of media that includes it. It doesn't normalize it, it just has it. It's just a period. Now let's get into Rudius, okay? Rudius does some really abhorrent, fucked up, messed up shit. But again, it makes sense, okay? Look at every isekai ever. Almost every isekai ever. A guy has a shitty life, gets reborn, and then we just never hear about his past life ever again. He's a perfect human being now in this new life. He was an incel, terrible person back in his old life for 50, 30, 20 years, but now that he's in this new life, he's a perfect person. He has no issues, no mental issues, nothing. But that's so stupid because just because you get reborn doesn't mean your whole mindset's going to change. You can have, like, change being like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this new world and not make the mistakes I made in my last one, which is what Rudeus did. But it's not going to get rid of any mental illness you had back in your old world or any fears you had in your own world, and that's evident in Mushoku Tensei. Like, aside from all like the really important things, look at Rudeus as a character. For the first few years, he never left his home. He was scared of the outside world because of what happened in his previous life. And then think of him trying to make friends. He couldn't make a friend. It was hard for him to make a friend or call someone a friend because he never had that in his old life. His old life was super fucked up. He was like 30. He never had a real relationship as a friend, as a relationship with a girl or with like a partner or a lover. Never had good relationship with his family. Never had a real job. Never really went to school after everything happened. He had a really, really messed up life. And so all those things don't just disappear because he died and gets reincarnated. All those things are still there, and that affects him as a character, which makes sense. He doesn't know how to handle a real relationship, so he messes those relationships up and says some bad things and does some bad things to those relationships. He doesn't know how it feels to basically love somebody. He just sees an attractive girl, his second cousin, and thinks, oh, girls are only meant for sex and stuff. But then, as you see, he develops as a character, which is another evidence of a good story, character development. He develops, he does these messed up things, but then he's like, oh shit, wait, it affects the person badly. I feel bad. It's a bad thing. Let me not do that in the future. He's learning from his mistakes and he's growing up as if he was actually 10 years old. All these things in the story, it's almost, it's realistic for his age, like his age in the new world. So if he's 10 years old and he doesn't know how to make a friend or doesn't know how to have a relationship with a girl, that makes sense. But then people can make the excuse where it's like he's 30 years old because of he had a previous life. But that previous life wasn't really much of a life. He just sat inside, played video games, watched porn, and just touched himself. That's not really much of a life. And if the only exposure you have to females is through pornography, obviously it's not gonna go well in real life. Like, it's just, it all makes sense. And yes, the author did not need to include any of these things. Definitely not. But it would have made a really shitty show. Imagine Mushoku Tensei if Rudeus was perfect, the medieval world was perfect, there was nothing bad happening in it. Everything was also perfect. Would that really be an interesting or good show? No, because a show needs conflict, it needs development, it needs character building, it needs world building, it needs all these different aspects. And the author adding in these messed up things adds to that. And I don't think it's any negative to the author. If anything, the author is a fucking genius for making a story like this because it's an amazing story. And if you look at it as a cartoon, which it is, and if you look at it as a story and just an aspect of the world, instead of looking at it so, stop looking for things to fight, essentially. Stop looking for things to be wrong, to make a stance against, and just enjoy it for what it is, which is just a piece of media. And if you do it like that, you'll understand it is just a piece of media. Jesus, okay? I've had that on my chest for so long. Okay, let me take a sip of coffee and relax. I know that's a bit counterintuitive where I take a sip of coffee to relax, but I love my coffee. But yeah, does anybody understand? Okay, essentially, Mushoku Tensei and Rudeus Grey Rat, they've done some fucked up things. They have some fucked up things in the story, but it's still a really good story. It makes sense for character building, for world building, for character development, and the time period and everything. And the whole thing where people are like, oh, the time period thing doesn't excuse it, the author, for putting in the world. And it's kind of like, yes, it does. It literally does, because he's making it realistic. There was slavery in medieval times in that time period that is modeled after. So it makes sense for it to happen in this time period. And then people are like, okay, but he didn't have to buy a slave. He didn't have to support it. And the author's statement makes sense, where the author is basically like, Rudeus doesn't see it as good nor bad. He just sees it as part of the culture and just goes based off of that, which again makes sense. First off, again, he had no real life or experiences in his old life, just all negative experiences. Only in this new life has he started experiencing life and experiencing the world around him, which basically means he's grown up in this world. So things that might have been weird in the past life aren't really weird in this new life. And he's more familiarized with this new society and everything. And he doesn't see slavery as good nor bad. He just sees it as it is, because he has no right, also no power to change any of that. It's something that exists, and he's just going to keep it as something like that exists. Like, think about it like real world. At a much lower scale on the real world, there's some messed up things that happen in other countries. You might not agree with it, but are you going to go to that country and say, hey, stop doing this bad thing because I disagree with it? No, it's their culture. It's something that happens, and as someone who's not part of that or not invested in that, you don't really have a say in it, essentially. And again, it's not me supporting slavery. Slavery is bad, but it makes sense, okay? It just makes sense to have it in the story. It makes sense, everything that the author does. It's a really good anime. It's a really good story. Stop being such pussies about it, essentially. It's really easy to get behind the whole, man, Mushoku Tensei should be canceled because of XYZ. It's really easy to bandwagon that side, okay? It always has been. But, like, stop being pussies, be realistic, and yeah, it's a really good show, okay? Mushoku Tensei is a really good show. If you don't like it, okay, sure, that's fine. Anybody could like any anime they want, okay? But you can't say it's an objectively bad show because of these things. You can say you don't like the show because of these bad things. That's fine, that's an opinion, but you can't say it's a bad show, it should be canceled because of these things. Because then Game of Thrones would be a shitty show. Breaking Bad would be a shitty show. Any anime that takes place, or any show that takes place in the past, is a bad show or movie or anime. It's just done. Anyways, moving on from this, because I've ranted about this for too long. I got off my chest. I feel better, okay? I feel better. Essentially, watch Mushoku Tensei. It's a fantastic show. Anyways, TikTok fucking sucks, okay? Being a creator in Canada on TikTok sucks. Not only is the app so buggy, where first off, it like overheats my phone every time I make videos. Second off, the camera is super weird on Android. Third off, people in Canada don't make money off TikTok. In places like US and Europe, you can make money off of views if you have a certain amount of followers, in which I would probably qualify for, as I have 30,000 followers. We don't have that. We never had the Creator Fund or this new beta program. So I'm basically posting videos for fun, and I'm not really getting anything out of it except for followers. And then that's why I'm trying to move you guys over to here, to YouTube, where I can actually make a living. It's why I'm in talks with companies or stuff like that, just to, you know, make some money off of my hobby, because I really love doing this. I really, really do. But TikTok just fucking sucks. The app is so buggy. Like right now, the reason why I'm talking about this right now is because today, I made 4 videos last night, okay? A 10-minute video talking about this, like the Mushoku Tensei issue, and then I made like 3 other videos. It took me half an hour, 45 minutes to make all the videos, to set it all up, to think of the ideas and all that, which in the grand scheme of things isn't very long. 45 minutes for 4 videos, that's pretty good. But I wake up today, it was all saved in my drafts when I went to bed. I had a nice little sleepy, and then I woke up and I click on my drafts that says 4 videos, and they weren't there. It said error loading drafts, click to retry. Okay, I clicked to retry. And it just sits there loading and loading and loading for 10 minutes. It wasn't gonna load anything. So then I restart the app. Try again. Loading, nothing. So then I switch off my Wi-Fi and try to go off my data. Still nothing. I restart the app. Still nothing. I restart my phone. Still nothing. I update the app. Still nothing. I try everything. I look up videos. And then one video request said you should go report a problem. So I go, okay. So I go to report a problem. I write up a whole paragraph about what my problem is. I attach pictures and proof of it. And I click report. And it says network issue, can't place report. TikTok, how's their network issue? If I'm watching TikToks, my internet's working, I can watch all my videos, all other people's videos. I can even post videos because I posted a video because I had to get a video out. How's there no network issues for me to do that, but for me to report an issue that I'm having with the shitty app, there's a network issue somehow, and I can't report it, and I can't fix it, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe those 4 videos are gone, maybe my drafts are broken. I don't know, maybe I'll lose those videos forever. and I just need to make new videos now for today because I need to go out and I need videos to post. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. TikTok is just super messed up for people in Canada. Also just messed up in general. It's a shitty app for creators, and also for Canadians, it's even worse because, again, we don't make anything off of it. In the past 2 months, or ever since I really started to gain traction at around June, I would have made around $2,000, and that's not much, but that would have been something. Would have been something that I would not have had before, and it would have helped with a lot of things in life. But because I don't have that, I can't do that. So, I don't know. Essentially, TikTok fucking sucks, and Mushoku Tensei is a great show, and you should watch it, and you shouldn't cancel it. Okay, I got a lot of rants off my chest. This is basically just a fucking rant video, a rant episode. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you for listening to my rant. I appreciate you for watching this video if you are watching it. And thank you for watching 5 videos of this shit. I really appreciate every single one of you guys so much. Okay? And if you're still watching, comment pizza pie. Let's see if any of you are actually watching. But anyways, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.